have you been conditioned? And have you ever actually spent any time thinking about this? So I've had a number of conversations with my clients recently, and one of the things that we've been coaching on is kind of around why they are the way they are. And when we look at our brain and when we look at how we are created from a personality perspective, it becomes really quite clear why we have the beliefs we have or why we do some of the things we do. Now, we all started our lives as tiny little babies. And I want you to imagine your brain at that point was a completely empty hard drive. So if you imagine your brain as a computer with a hard drive, from the point that you were born, your hard drive starts to get programmed. So the things that you see, the things that you hear, your experiences as you grow up, they all start to program in this hard drive. And when we're children, we don't have the ability to question or rationalize the things that we see or the things that we hear. Our prefrontal cortex isn't developed, so we don't have the ability to necessarily rationalize or argue against the statement. And I'm not talking here about, traumatic incidents. I'm just talking about the general day-to-day things that you would have seen or you would have heard from your caregivers, from the media, from your community, from, just being out and about in the world. When we get to a certain age now as adults, we're able to look at that programming and decide, is it helping me? So at the most basic level, I have an example. The weather, especially here in the UK, people open their windows, and I'm one of them. When you see it's raining, the instant sentence that my brain offers me is, oh, isn't it miserable today? Now, it's because I've done this work, and it's because I've learned how to hear those sentences, how to listen to my brain, that I then get to decide very deliberately how I want to perceive the weather. How do I want to be thinking and how do I want to be feeling? If I go along with society's norm of, isn't it miserable today? I'm going to feel miserable. And I'm not saying for 1 minute you should or shouldn't do that, but you do have a choice. So that's the type of thing I mean by like the general programming that you've been exposed to. Now, as an adult, you get to decide whether you want to continue believing those sentences that your brain gives you. And your brain is giving them to you because of your programming up until this point. So another example is sugar's a treat. It is not a treat to have aggravated medical conditions, to feel like irritable, to put on weight, to have that slump after a couple of hours afterwards. That's not a treat. Another belief that I hear a lot as well is alcohol is fun. But I can't say that I've had a lot of fun when my head has been over the toilet bowl the next morning. That is not fun. So I just want to offer to you this week, what do you hear in your head? And I listen to myself all the time. I talk to myself all the time. This is the power that we have as humans. We have a primal brain giving us primal primitive responses, telling us to do primitive actions. I get to decide, Nikki gets to decide if she's actually going to see those actions through. Does me believing that sentence help me? Is it serving me? And if it's not serving me, let's choose something different. So I was explaining this to one of my clients last week, and then he really made me laugh because I said to him, when it's raining and you hear, isn't it miserable? Ask yourself, is that true? Is that a fact in the world? Would every single person agree with me that the rain was miserable? Well, no, of course they wouldn't, because someone that's just experienced a drought is going to rejoice at having the rain. Whitewater kayakers get excited when it rains because the river levels are up. So not everybody in the world agrees that rain is miserable. So that's not a fact. So when I hear that sentence in my brain, I actually then go to, do you know, it's really interesting to watch. I love the way that the rain drops into a puddle and the ripple and the puddle. I love the fact that I've got somewhere dry and warm to come home to. I love watching the wind blow the trees and the rain actually coming down. It gives me something nice to look at. And when I think deliberately that way, I just feel better. So this isn't always about feeling positive. Please don't misunderstand me that just because your thoughts create your emotions that you should then always feel positive, because that is bullshit. You don't always want to feel positive. I don't want to feel happy and positive about the violence in the world, about the neglect and the abuse that there is in the world. I don't want to feel happy and joyous when I lose somebody I love. But I do those emotions deliberately. And that's what we get to control. So this week, as you're going through your week, just hear your head. Just notice, just with fascination and curiosity. This is not another reason to beat yourself up, but just notice, like, what is that dialogue you hear in your head? Because everybody has it. And if you think you're the only one, I promise you, you're not. That's why I have a job. All our brains are thinking. All of the time. We have 60 to 70,000 thoughts a day. You get to look at those thoughts and decide whether they're helping you. And if they are helping you create a life you want, brilliant. Carry on believing them, go for it. If they're not, then you can change them. You can actually think something different. And there will be someone in the world that doesn't agree with that belief. So what? You're living your life, not theirs. They get to live their life. And if you need any help with that, get in touch, because this is what I do. I help badass businesswomen to build their emotional resilience by managing that voice in their head. I help my clients, and I can help you to learn how to control your cravings, to create deliberate emotions so that you actually fuel your life instead of just putting up with what you think you have to put up with. Have an amazing week, and I'll speak to you again next week. Bye.